What's up, dialysis? What's up, dialysis disciples? Uh, Thanks for joining us here today. Um, that handsome gentleman you see to my left, his name is Christian Lockhart. He's the author of Operate Unlock, the quiet power to taking steps to get anything you want. I say it in my words. He's gonna say it a lot clearer for us. But uh, but yeah, so I've known Christian a long time, guys. So welcome. This is a good friend of mine, and we've been taking this journey to in personal development and getting better and making others better for a while here. So we just want to have a conversation, guys. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Troy Sneed. Uh, I'm a 25-year dialysis warrior. I'm a three-time cancer survivor and author of A Gifted Tome, the 40-day spiritual fast for dialysis patients. And I'm here today, guys, to have a conversation with Christian about why a lot of us as dialysis patients, we want help, we need help, but for some reason we don't go after it. Before we get in, I'll just tell you a quick story about me. Uh, I had I had someone offer to give me a kidney, and because I was in such a wrong mindset, I looked at it as not a gift, but as I'm gonna have to owe this person for a long time, right? And that type of mentality and that type of false beliefs is something that permeates us as dialysis patients, right? Because dialysis really attacks our identity, right? So I just want to bring Christian on. He wrote a book specifically not for dialysis patients, but for anyone looking to unlock themselves, right? And as dialysis warriors, we find ourselves in dialysis drift just every day, treatment after treatment, come home, go to sleep, get up, do it again. And that system of that dialysis drift just really eats and eats and eats at our identity and who we think we are, right? So, so Christian, I just want to bring you on. Is there anything you would like to say to the audience before we get started? Introduce
Nah, I
yourself a
just
little
want to
bit.
say thank you for allowing me to come on and have a conversation with you. And just listening to your introduction has my wheels spinning already on things we might even get into. Um,
Hmm.
no, but as far as the handsome part, I definitely appreciate that. I wasn't expecting it, so it's always gratitude, right? You said something about receiving a gift, the gift of a kidney, but the way you were going about it was probably not the best way. I heard somebody say one time, and I thought it was interesting, a fascinating statement. It's like you can't receive gifts with your hands closed. You know
Mm,
what I mean? I was like, that's kind of dope when you think about that, right? And so,
hmm.
but I'm just glad to be here. Let's have a good conversation, man.
Okay, okay. So, dialysis disciples, tonight, this isn't something I'm going to just teach at you, right? Nothing is going to be theoretical, right? We're already exposed physically, emotionally, financially, mentally, right? So, I'm not going to do anything today. We're not going to do anything to overwhelm your senses. Sit back, feel free to engage in the comments, but nothing's going to be required of you tonight, um, except to listen, right? So the first thing I want to ask you, Christian, I want to get your input on. Um, Wrote some stuff down here so I can find it. Um, so so as we know, the title of today's live is "Why We Need Help, but We Don't Ask." So, um, when someone wants help but stays silent, like what's really happening underneath that fear of being seen? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. So let me just clarify. One of the things that I talk about, in the book
Hmm.
is based off of 5 drivers of transformation, right? And if we're talking about fear, it's going to hide inside one of those 5 drivers. And just so you know what those drivers are, it's about 5 drivers of transformation, how to change. Right? We're talking about you
Mm,
have to change your lens, you have to change your positioning, you have to change your capacity, you have to change your activity, and change your environment, right? And so when we're talking about staying silent, right, we're talking about fear.
hmm.
This
Hmm.
is about that probably sits in understanding your lens, right? You probably need to change your lens, right? Because that
Mm,
governs how you see and interpret your reality, right? Um, so that puts me like, so you want to identify where you want to go, right? So understanding where you are and identify where you want to go and be clear about that, right? Because I think, I'm not on dialysis. I do have CKD, but I'm not at a dialysis stage, right? So I'm aware,
Hmm.
but I'm
Hmm.
not, in tune with what you and folks are going through. But what I do know is they want to go somewhere, right? And I have to believe it's
Yeah.
outside of being confined in that
Yes.
drift, like you were discussing, right? And
Hmm.
describing, and then we want to start to understand what's in between where we are now and where we're trying to get to, right?
Hmm.
And I think the beautiful part is, and this is where like having a coach comes into play, because this is about asking hard questions, right? And
Hmm.
so a coach is there to ask those hard questions because they're your guide, right? And so if they can take you on this journey, right? Because especially like somebody who knows the journey, right? They're gonna know what to talk about, what to get you through because they
Yes.
felt it, they feel it, they know what it is. And so I think that fear it can sit mostly with how they're viewing and interpreting things, right? So it's to me, use that as intel, right? Because usually when fear hits, it's a feeling, right? There's a
Yeah.
feeling that comes with fear, right? And so when you get that feeling, you know, don't just turn away from it. Say, okay, there's some intelligence, there's some intel coming in, right? Some information I need to take from that. And so if I can look at it that way, and then say, you know what, that fear is because I'm operating a certain way, right? I need to change that. So that means what am I actually trying to get to, right? And if I can identify that North Pole, that aim, and then we can understand what's in between that, well, that's when the fear subsides, right? Because we're moving forward.
Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. And when I'm a lot of times I think when I hear fear, there's a lot of things and feelings in our lives that that are fear, but we don't identify them as such. Um, and I think one of the things that is like sometimes you'll have a feeling of overwhelm and you'll have a feeling of confusion, right? And what does the word say? Be not be of good courage and do not be dismayed. And dismay is just another fear from confusion too. So it sounds like to me that a lot of people um that we're referring to at this particular stage really may not understand that it's fear that's holding them back. And so maybe they don't take that next step to see what is blocking them from making a decision because they don't even really realize that fear is the thing that's blocking them. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. And that's because as you're talking, I'm thinking again, it's something, it starts with reading it for what it is, to your point,
Mhm.
right? But then there's a whole nother thing that comes to mind, and that's about when you actually unpack it and read it for what it is, then you can start to look at things in your life that you can get rid of, right? Because
Hmm.
now we're getting into the capacity side of the house, right? And so capacity is all about getting rid of things I don't need so I can fill myself with things that I need so I can do what I need to do, right? And that whole
Yeah,
thing, I
right.
know you talked to probably about, be do have to your audience, I'm sure, right? And
Yes.
so that capacity, so that uncovering side allows you to become who you need to become, right? See how it all ties in, right? So you can
Hmm.
uncover
Hmm.
the aim. And then, there's this thing I call notice the barriers. That's that whole what's going on between where I'm at and where I'm trying to get to, right? But the next phase of that is you want to locate the origin of that fear or of that feeling that you're getting that's holding you back.
Yeah.
Because you can identify it, but if you don't get to the root of it, so you know to eliminate it, right? Then your capacity won't expand, right? Or it won't be filled up with what needs to be filled.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. That's so true because a lot when you talk about capacity, that kind of goes right into my next question because
Mm.
when we talk about capacity is your ability to contain or hold whatever it is in your life, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times people get diagnosed with this disease and they're automatically at capacity. Um, like I heard it said that you can have 99 problems, but if you have a health problem, you have one problem, right?
Mhm.
So then that speaks to your capacity. And a lot of dialysis patients, because of that capacity being filled, then that leads to a certain type of overwhelm because now your capacity is bursting, and that I think is another definition for overwhelm. So you in your book you talk about overwhelm as a reason people freeze, right? What do people misunderstand about that moment when there's an action they need to take, they
Hmm.
feel it in their bones that they need to take it,
Hmm.
but something just stops them from taking it. They freeze, and they might not even be able to put their finger on why they froze. And I think that's kind of what we're here to unlock. Like, why are we not taking the action that we know will help us?
Yeah, so that's how they're positioned, right? And so
Mhm.
that's a defense mechanism, right? So it's
Yes.
defending how they're positioned, right? And so that's basically, and you talk about capacity, right? Because I always say that governs how we handle things, right? And the
Hmm.
thing is interesting, when we talk about capacity, that's what shapes energy levels. That's what
Hmm.
shapes stress tolerance. That's what shapes our ability to maintain momentum, right?
Hmm.
And then if we talk about, that overwhelm, again, that's intel. When you feel it, frame it as, okay, there's something I need to know because there's something I need to do, right? Because we're the genius of our own self, so we can govern that. You know what I mean? So take
Right.
ownership of your own genius first off, right? And then just recognize, you know what? I'm defending the position that I'm in. I need to move to a different position. It means I need to see things differently. It means I need to give me something to aim for, like, or focus on the thing that you know you want to get to. I'm sure everybody has it, especially in the
Yes.
group, right? They have it already, but and if there's an inactivity, right? And the reason why there's
Yes.
inactivity because there's, excuse me, that defense mechanism is perceived safety from their side,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they're trying to avoid it. So one of the things is you want to avoid um, things that don't push you forward, right? And keep the things that move you forward, right? And that's where activity comes into play, but that's a whole nother phase when we talk about. So we're talking about the whole change how you see things, um, change how you're governing things on how you see reality, right? Your reality. Change. You want to start to change um, what you actually know, right? Because that's a whole other thing, right? And I think that's the other part. You touched on something, the whole knowing part. You said there's one problem, right?
Hmm.
But what do we know about the devil in Genesis, right? Satan in Genesis? What's he talk about? He tries to get us to think about the one thing, right? So I
Hmm.
know your group because everybody in this world has things that are positive, right? And if they have two things that are positive, then that one problem is already outweighed,
Got
right?
you.
And so when we
Gratitude.
understand that the math is in our favor, right? The math is already in
Hmm.
our favor. So that changes how we reference that one thing. That one thing could be tough, right? And challenging. We know that, right? But if you can point to this thing and that thing as positive influences in my life, then we start to see how the energy changes, right? Because then we start to
Yeah.
see that defense mechanism break down, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's good. So you're basically saying like gratitude, right? So a lot of things a lot of times I talk to dialysis patients, and they say something like, "Oh man, I have to go to dialysis. I had to sit at this machine for 4 hours." But I teach them to reframe. Like, you get to go to dialysis. You get to sit at that dialysis machine for 4 hours. Because if not, you'd be 6 feet under. You wouldn't be able to enjoy your family and all the things that you enjoy. So it's all about framing your mind to understand that yes, you have this one thing that may be causing you uh, some challenges, but you want to focus on all the other things, right? And that what you're saying, Christian, is that that's going to minimize the fact about this one thing you're dealing with. So what I hear you saying is reframing and focusing on gratitude rather than um, what you're quote unquote overwhelmed with.
You got 4 hours, right? But then you got 20 others,
Yeah.
right? You got 20
Yep.
others. You know what I mean? So you're going to allocate time for that four because you don't want that 6 feet like you talked about, right? So we're going to do that four. You're allocating that four, and I got to imagine you're going to allocate maybe another hour or two or whatever for rest and recovery time,
Hmm.
right? Okay,
of course.
let's call it 6. We still got 18, right? Let's
Hmm.
call it 8 for work, right? 9 with the commute, right? So we still got 9. You're gonna sleep 7, 8 hours. I don't know, whatever it is, but you can still allocate time for other things, right? Just that's just budgeting at that point, right? You're gonna budget
Hmm.
that stuff, but budget other stuff, right? Add stuff to you. That's the capacity stuff, right? So you know
Hmm.
you're gonna budget that for. Okay. So out of that 20, what do I really need to get rid of and fill it in with something else?
Yes, yes. And that's exactly what I help people do because there's ways to have better recovery time,
Mm,
right? And a lot of people don't understand that, the actions and their behaviors outside of the dialysis hours, what they consume, and not only uh, through their mouths, but through their ears, right? All of this stuff creates your dialysis journey. It all affects, and I believe that's something that a lot of dialysis warriors are unaware of, right? They just believe that they go to this machine. A lot of us will say dialysis made me tired, right? But was it dialysis? Was it what you put in your body before you went in there? Was it what you were doing while you were there? When you left? Like, what are your
mm,
behaviors on your off days? I think I know you talk about something outside of this with the invisible struggle, but with
mhm.
us, those are invisible deterrents to a thriving dialysis life.
Yeah.
So, I want to ask you something else, Christian. This is kind of a big jump, no segue, right? But I know a lot of dialysis patients because this was me. Like we, we really care what other people think, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's they think I'm a burden, my caregiver thinks I'm a burden, right? Um, People think I'm weak because I'm on dialysis, and these are all planted by the enemy, right? These are slick ways to bring you down, right? So what do you think about people not asking for help because they care what people think? Like it's safer just to stay where they are than going out on a limb and it's safer than saying when someone offers you help, it's safer to say no, I'm good and stay in the drift than it is to say yes, I need the help. And so I don't know what do people think and all those types of things. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and so let me do something for your audience too. So, like you said, name of my book is Operate Unlocked. Unlock is an acronym for uncover the aim or your target, right? What are you shooting for? Notice the barriers, right? Locate the origin of those barriers, overhaul your system, commit to the path, keep what works, expand your horizons, and demonstrate, right? And so, what you just talked about is people who are putting that out there, right? Caring what people think and what all the things you just went through. That sits in those are the root cause of that is noticing those are barriers, right?
Mhm.
So now those are self-inflicted barriers, right? And so when we talk about notice the barriers and then we say locate their origin, that part right there is important. I think we touched on this a little earlier, right? So now, Slick's putting some, I call, Satan devil. I call him Slick, right? Because
They
he's
know,
real slick
they
with it,
know,
right?
they know.
So, Slick's gonna put some stuff out there, but then we got to recognize, okay, where did it originate, right? Why do I even feel that way, right? And then you
Mm,
have to ask yourself, what is that going to change, right? And so,
mm,
because guess what? If I'm feeling this kind of way and I'm operating in a sense that I already believe, like you just talked about, this person says this person says that. Okay, you need to overhaul that system because guess what? Almost overhaul means do the opposite, right? So
mm,
if you're feeling
mm,
some kind of way now and that's what how you're thinking through things, well, think the opposite of that and see what result you might get, right?
mm,
You said something
mm.
earlier too before you segued into that deep jump we went in. You talked about what the dialysis disciples are consuming, whether it's physically or even through other senses, right? It takes me to something. I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but it's like we take in. I'm going to say it wrong. I don't know, 93 million pieces of data every day, right? Through eyes, through our nose, right? Through our ears, right? The whole nine. And we retain like 139 of them, right? It's some
Mhm.
small number that we actually retain. But see, we retain it based off of our own genius and how we're defining it, our day and how we're feeling, right? So if I'm coming around and I'm feeling a certain way and I'm thinking I'm a certain way and I'm saying things a certain way, then that's what I'm going to retain, right? Because everything's two-sided, right? One might
Right.
be the good side, might be the bad side. So if I'm thinking on the left side, then that's what I'm going to take in. I'm going to take in and just regurgitate that left side out. But if I change and think to the right side, well, then I'm gonna get the right side, right? And
Mhm.
the beautiful part about those 24 hours, right, is they're broken down into minutes and seconds. And every second we have an opportunity to make a change. Every second.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we don't have to hang on it. So when we catch ourselves and then we can identify it, then we can say, you know what? Overhaul that system.
Mhm. Overhaul that system. So as you're speaking, I'm trying to relate it and weave it to what dialysis patients are doing.
Mm,
Many of them I talk to, right? And you'd be surprised, Christian. I'm in a lot of dialysis and kidney groups, and you'd be amazed of how many times I'll see a post where someone says, "I can't do this no more. I'm quitting dialysis. I can't take it in my life." And they talk about quitting dialysis. And then there's a flood of comments of people saying, "Don't do it. You have lots to live for, right?" Like, and I guess this is the crux of of this talk today is like, why doesn't that person get the help that's available? Is it that they don't know that the help's available? Is it that um they just like being wilding in their sorrow? That reminds me of the story where Jesus goes up to the guy at the water. You know, so for those of you unfamiliar, there's a story, I believe it's in Luke. There's a pool, I think it's the pool of Bethesda, and it would bubble up every so often. And the first one in would be healed from their sickness. And Jesus walked up to a man and he said, "Do you wish to be healed?" Right? So, he like, of course, yeah, like from the outside, you think, well, like, yes, he wants to be healed, right? But then why is he wilding? Why is he making excuses and saying every time the water bubble up, somebody beats me to it, right? And having that feeling of I rather complain than get help, right? So that's the crux, Christian, of what I'm trying to figure out because I've been making myself available to people for over a year now,
mm,
and very few people come to me and say, Troy, I need your help. Please help me. Right. And I've been on calls and talked to some people, right? But it seems like the ratio of people who absolutely need help and the people who are willing to accept it, right? There's a high difference from that. And I know this is a loaded question, brother, and I'm putting you on the spot, but why do you think that is?
Here's what I'll say. Here's my question. Do you really want help?
Yep.
Right? You can say it all you want, right? Because it might be the thing to say, yes, I do. I'm doing this, aren't I? No, yeah. Are you going through the motions or do you really want help? Right? Because again, that's the thing. Like you said, you're there, you're offering it up. What would you say, 25 years in the game, right?
Mhm.
I mean, if there was a Hall of Fame, you'd be there, right? We're talking
Yeah.
25 years in the game. What are we talking about? The problem is, too, our society wants to reinvent the wheel all the time, right? You're right there, right? If you and the thing about and like you said, this is from a coaching side of the house now, right? Why do
Mhm.
we have coaches in anything, right? It's for people who have coaches. I don't care if you play in a sport, it's because you really wanted to be there. And if I'm going to take a sports analogy, because I run Sports IQ,
Mhm.
why do we do anything like that? We want to compete. See, the problem is they got to realize who their competitor is. That competitor is them, right? And that's why they're defeating themselves. Think about
Mhm.
that, right? They need to be on the offensive versus letting the defensive side of them win the battle. You know what I mean? So that's why I think the real question is, I would sit there and ask you, do you really want help?
Mhm.
Like truly, right? Because then that comes back to what? What's your target? If you want to help, then what's your target? What are you trying to accomplish? I'm trying to live free. I'm trying to not be, bound by this chair or whatever. I'm trying not to let this thing run me. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Now it's almost like this. Like I've said this to my daughters at some point when they were younger. Let me ask you, and when they say they were 11 years old, right? Say, hey, let me ask you a question. Would you let an 11-year-old run your life for you?
Mm.
Map out things for you? No, I wouldn't do that. Why not? Well, they don't know. Same thing with a coach, right? If you're in this battle, right, and you're new, especially if you're new to the game, right, or even if you're seasoned in this, right, you still got coaches. LeBron still got a coach. You know what I mean? He's 95 years old. He still has a coach, right? So the
Yeah.
coach is there for a reason. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, listen, if that's the case, you may know something, but you got somebody here, guess who's going, well, who knows a lot. Not saying you know everything, but you know a lot. But I do know, and if there's something they're going to bring, you're going to challenge them, right? Because that's the point, right? If there's no friction, right, then nothing's good. Nothing good can happen. If there's no fire where there's no friction. Let's say that,
Right.
right? And if you're trying to be fired up and get through this, then guess what? Somebody needs to rub you the right way and the wrong way, right? And that's what coaches are there for, So I can now every individual case is different. I can't generalize and say this is why, but I will say the biggest thing for me is challenge the person or whoever's listening. Challenge yourselves and ask yourself, do you really want whatever it is you think you want? First off, did you identify it first? Let's stay there. Identify it, like truly identify it, and then get out of your own way. Because you know why? Because you're a barrier at that point. We're talking about it, right? Notice the barriers. If the things you're saying are stopping you, that's a barrier, right? Figure out. So that's why you locate it. That's coming from me. All right, I can change that, right? Or if something happened in your past, right, that's helping you interpret your reality, then you can say, you know what? This caused that. I'm not going to be bound by that anymore. That's the part of being a genius of who you are, because you can say that about yourself. So it's time for people to be geniuses about themselves.
Yeah. Thanks, Christian. I appreciate you,
Hopefully that
brother.
helped.
It's very helpful. I'm glad, man. That's very impactful, man. And I appreciate your time tonight, this evening, man. I know you got your own thing you usually do at this time of night, but you decide to
I'm here
bless
with
us.
you, man. I
So
dedicated
we
this
thank
time. I don't know how long we're gonna
thank
go,
you.
but I'm here. I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah, yeah. We're gonna wrap it up a little now. I like to keep people for about half hour, 40 minutes. So
Oh, is that?
but I just want to
Man,
say this. I
time's
just want to
fine.
say this one thing, guys. If any of this has resonated with you, all right, if you know that you need help, but something has been blocking you from actual asking for it and seeking it and staying stuck where you are, you don't have to be that way, guys. Um, this is what God has called me to do. He's called me to help you and help dialysis warriors have a thriving journey on dialysis. So if anything tonight resonated with you guys, thank you, Christian. I want you to comment Coach COCH in the chat, or COACH in the chat, and or DM me the word Coach, guys, and I'll reach out. We'll talk about something. We'll talk about what's keeping you stuck. We'll talk about what barriers that you have to notice and what you have to unlock, guys, and we'll put together a plan specifically for you so you can thrive on dialysis, guys. So again, thanks, Christian.
Listen, real quick.
Yeah,
So tell
any
them if
parting
they
words,
want.
brother? Any parting
Yeah,
words?
if they want, they can get my book, and that'll help them help you, right?
Yeah.
Because that's
So
the
what I'll
point.
do, yeah. So what my plan is to do is after we get off here, I'm gonna put all Christian stuff in the link, and if you know if it's with he's speaking of resonated with you, and you know you want to get in this book, it'll be available to you. He's even generous enough to provide us with a coupon code, gifted, and all that stuff will be in the comments and in the links to this live, guys. So I appreciate everyone that's been here, guys. If you
Thank
got
you.
any value from this tonight, put value in the chat. And if you want to talk about how you can get unlocked, uh, you know, comment Coach, guys.
Mhm.
So until next week. Oh, by the way, don't forget Sundays masterclass, dialysis reset masterclass. Register. That's in the bio as well, guys. Look forward to seeing you guys there.
Nice. Thanks, Troy.
Again,
Appreciate you having me, man.
thanks, Christian. Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your night.